Hey there, American Healthy Habits family. Want a garden full of butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds, but you don't have time for high-maintenance plants? I'm going to show you 5 native plants that pollinators absolutely love. And here's the best part. Once they're established, they require almost zero maintenance. No deadheading, no constant watering, no babying them through the season. These are native plants, which means they evolved right alongside the pollinators in North America. They know how to thrive without you hovering over them with a watering can. And if you stick around, I'll also tell you which popular pollinator plants actually don't help pollinators at all, so you don't waste money on plants that look pretty but do nothing for the bees and butterflies you're trying to attract. Let's talk about creating a pollinator garden that works with nature instead of against it. Why native plants for pollinators? Here's something most people don't realize. Not all flowers help pollinators. You can plant a garden full of colorful blooms and still have zero bees, butterflies, or hummingbirds visiting. That's because many of the plants sold at garden centers, especially hybrid ornamentals, don't provide the nectar or pollen that pollinators actually need. Native plants are different. These are plants that evolved in North America over thousands of years, right alongside native bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. The relationship is built in. Native plants produce the specific nectar, pollen, and habitat that these pollinators depend on to survive. The 5 plants I'm covering today are native to most of the eastern and central United States, from the East Coast through the Great Plains, and they're hardy in zones 3 through 9. If you're in a different zone like the Southwest or Pacific Northwest, some of these will still work for you, but you may also want to explore regional native alternatives. I'll mention zones and native range for each plant as we go. And here's the maintenance bonus. Because native plants are adapted to the climate, soil, and rainfall patterns where they evolved, they don't need constant intervention once they're established. They're not fighting against your conditions, they're built for them. So when you plant natives that are appropriate for your region, you're not just helping pollinators, you're also making your life easier. These plants are adapted to thrive across much of the U.S. You're working with nature, not spending every weekend trying to keep exotic plants alive in conditions they weren't designed for. The 5 plants I'm about to show you will work for most gardeners watching this video. Let's start with the first one. Butterfly milkweed. The first plant is butterfly milkweed, also called Asclepias tuberosa. This is the plant that monarch butterflies depend on. Monarchs lay their eggs exclusively on milkweed plants, and the caterpillars feed on the leaves. Without milkweed, monarchs can't complete their life cycle. So if you want monarchs in your garden, you need milkweed. Butterfly milkweed blooms from late spring through summer with clusters of bright orange flowers, though you can also find yellow and red varieties. The flowers are packed with nectar, so you'll see not just monarchs, but also other butterflies, bees, and even hummingbirds visiting. Here's what makes it low maintenance. Butterfly milkweed is drought-tolerant once established. It has a deep taproot that reaches down into the soil for water, so you don't need to irrigate it. It thrives in poor to average soil. You don't need to amend or fertilize. And it doesn't need deadheading. The flowers will fade naturally, and the plant will set seed pods that birds and small mammals use as food in winter. Butterfly milkweed is native to the eastern and central United States. It's hardy in zones 3 through 9, which covers most of the continental U.S. It prefers full sun and well-drained soil. Once you plant it, leave it alone. It doesn't like to be moved or divided. One thing to know, butterfly milkweed can be slow to emerge in spring. Don't panic if you don't see it right away. Mark where you planted it so you don't accidentally dig it up thinking it's dead. It's just taking its time. Plant butterfly milkweed once, and you'll have monarchs visiting your garden for decades. Black-eyed Susan. The second plant is black-eyed Susan, or Rudbeckia hirta. This is one of the most reliable, easy-to-grow native wildflowers you can plant. It blooms from midsummer all the way through fall with bright yellow petals and dark brown centers. And pollinators love it. Bees, butterflies, and beneficial insects are all over this plant when it's in bloom. Black-eyed Susans are incredibly low maintenance. They tolerate heat, humidity, and drought once established. They grow in poor soil, average soil, or rich soil. They're not picky. They don't need fertilizing. They don't need staking. And while you can deadhead them to encourage more blooms, you don't have to. If you let the spent flowers stay on the plant, goldfinches and other seed-eating birds will feed on the seeds through fall and winter. Black-eyed Susan is native throughout most of North America. It's hardy in zones 3 through 9. It prefers full sun but will tolerate partial shade. And it self-sows, so once you plant it, you'll likely see seedlings popping up in subsequent years. You can leave them where they are or move them while they're small. Black-eyed Susans are also deer-resistant. The leaves have a slightly rough, hairy texture that deer don't like, so they'll leave these alone even when they're eating everything else in your garden. This is a true plant-it-and-forget-it perennial. It blooms for months, feeds pollinators, provides winter interest, and requires almost zero care. If you're new to native plants, Black-eyed Susan is a perfect place to start. Purple coneflower. The third plant is purple coneflower, or Echinacea purpurea. You've probably seen this plant before. It has large daisy-like flowers with purple-pink petals and a prominent spiky orange cone in the center. And that cone is what pollinators are after. Bees and butterflies love landing on the cone to access the nectar and pollen. Purple coneflower blooms from early summer through late summer, and it's a magnet for pollinators. You'll see bumblebees, native bees, swallowtail butterflies, and even hummingbirds visiting. And in fall and winter, goldfinches love feeding on the seeds from the dried seed heads. This plant is extremely drought-tolerant once established. It has a deep taproot, so it doesn't need supplemental watering except during severe drought. It grows in poor to average soil, no fertilizer needed. It doesn't need deadheading, though you can remove spent flowers if you want to encourage a few more blooms. But if you leave the seed heads on the plant, you're providing food for birds through winter. Purple coneflower is native to the eastern and central United States. It's hardy in zones 3 through 9. It prefers full sun but will tolerate light shade. It's also deer-resistant. Deer generally avoid it. One maintenance task. Every few years, you can divide the clumps in early spring if they start to look crowded or if the center of the clump dies out. But that's it. This is an incredibly low-maintenance, long-lived perennial that just keeps performing year after year. If you want a pollinator magnet that also provides four-season interest, summer blooms, fall seed heads, winter structure, purple coneflower is your plant. Wild bergamot. The fourth plant is wild bergamot, also called bee balm or Monarda fistulosa. This is a native mint family plant with clusters of lavender-pink tubular flowers that bloom in midsummer. And when I say pollinators love this plant, I mean they swarm it. Bees, especially bumblebees and native bees, are all over wild bergamot. Butterflies visit constantly. And hummingbirds, they can't resist the tubular flowers. Wild bergamot is also incredibly low maintenance. It's drought-tolerant once established. It grows in a wide range of soils, from sandy to clay. It doesn't need fertilizing, and it spreads slowly via rhizomes to form nice clumps, but it's not aggressive like some mints. It's well-behaved. The leaves are aromatic. They smell like oregano or mint when you brush against them. That scent is pleasant to us, but unappetizing to deer, so deer leave wild bergamot alone. Wild bergamot is native throughout most of North America. It's hardy in zones 3 through 9. It prefers full sun but tolerates partial shade. The more sun it gets, the more it blooms. One thing to know, wild bergamot can be prone to powdery mildew in humid climates, especially if it's planted too close together or in areas with poor air circulation. The good news is that even if the leaves get powdery mildew, it doesn't kill the plant. It just looks a little shabby by late summer, and there are mildew-resistant varieties available if this is a concern. The maintenance for wild bergamot is minimal. Cut it back to the ground in late fall or early spring. That's it. It'll come back every year, bloom like crazy, and feed pollinators all summer long. Little bluestem grass. The fifth plant is little bluestem, a native ornamental grass. Now, you might be thinking, wait, a grass? How does that help pollinators? Here's the thing. A complete pollinator garden isn't just about flowers. Native grasses provide habitat. They create shelter for beneficial insects that overwinter in the hollow stems. They provide nesting material for native bees. And in fall and winter, seed-eating birds feed on the seed heads. Little bluestem is a warm-season grass that grows 2 to 4 feet tall. In summer, it's blue-green. In fall, it turns stunning shades of copper, orange, and red. And in winter, it stands upright, providing structure and movement in the garden even when everything else is dormant. This grass is incredibly low maintenance. It's drought-tolerant once established. In fact, it prefers dry to average soil. It doesn't need fertilizing, it doesn't need watering, it doesn't need dividing. The only maintenance is cutting it back to about 6 inches in late winter or early spring before new growth starts. That's it. Little bluestem is native throughout most of North America. It's hardy in zones 3 through 9. It thrives in full sun and well-drained soil. It's also deer-resistant. Deer don't browse on it. When you plant little bluestem in your pollinator garden, you're adding year-round interest, creating habitat for beneficial insects, and providing food for birds. It's the backbone plant that holds everything together visually while supporting the ecosystem. And here's a design tip. Plant little bluestem in groups of 3 or 5, and pair it with flowering natives like black-eyed Susans or purple coneflowers. The contrast between the airy grass and the bold flowers creates a beautiful, naturalistic look. Bonus plants for extended season. Those 5 plants will give you a pollinator garden that blooms from late spring through summer. But if you want to extend the season even further, especially into late summer and fall when pollinators are preparing for winter, add these 2 bonus plants. Asters. Native asters bloom in late summer and fall with purple, pink, or white daisy-like flowers. They're a critical food source for monarchs and other butterflies migrating south. Asters are low maintenance, drought-tolerant once established, and hardy in zones 3 through 9. They're native to most of North America. Goldenrod. Despite the myth that goldenrod causes allergies, it doesn't. Ragweed does. Goldenrod is one of the most important late-season plants for pollinators. It blooms in late summer and fall with bright yellow flower spikes that bees, butterflies, and beneficial insects swarm. It's low maintenance, drought-tolerant, and hardy in zones 3 through 9. It's native throughout North America. Adding asters and goldenrod to your pollinator garden ensures that bees and butterflies have food right up until the first frost. Design tips. Let's talk quickly about how to plant these for maximum impact. First, plant in groups. Don't plant one black-eyed Susan here and one purple coneflower over there. Plant in groups of 3, 5, or 7 of the same species. Pollinators are more attracted to mass plantings because they can see them from a distance, and it's more efficient for them to forage when there's a concentrated food source. Second, layer your plants by height. Put the little bluestem grass in the back or middle of the bed. Plant purple coneflowers and wild bergamot in the mid-layer. Put butterfly milkweed and black-eyed Susans toward the front. This creates a layered, naturalistic look and ensures that every plant gets the light it needs. Third, aim for continuous bloom from spring through fall. The plants I've shown you cover late spring, summer, and, if you add asters and goldenrod, fall. When you have something blooming in every season, pollinators will keep coming back to your garden. And fourth, resist the urge to clean up too early. Leave the dried seed heads and stems standing through winter. They provide food for birds and habitat for beneficial insects. You can cut everything back in late winter or early spring before new growth starts. What doesn't work? Honest Q&A. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what doesn't work. People often ask, what about marigolds? I heard they're good for pollinators. Marigolds are fine for pest control in vegetable gardens. They deter some insects, but they're not great for pollinators. Most marigolds don't produce much nectar or pollen, and they're not native, so they don't support native bees and butterflies the way native plants do. Another question, what about double-flowered varieties? They're so pretty. Double-flowered varieties, where the flower has extra petals, often have little to no accessible nectar or pollen. The extra petals block pollinators from reaching the center of the flower. If you want to help pollinators, stick with single-flowered varieties where the reproductive parts are visible and accessible. And one more. Do I need a huge garden for this? Or no. You can create a pollinator garden in a small bed, a corner of your yard, or even in containers on a patio. Pollinators don't care about the size of the space. They care about the availability of native plants with accessible nectar and pollen. Even a 4x4-foot bed planted with these natives will attract bees and butterflies. The key is planting the right plants, not planting a massive area. If you want a garden full of butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds, plant these 5 native plants: butterfly milkweed, black-eyed Susan, purple coneflower, wild bergamot, and little bluestem grass. They're low maintenance. They're drought-tolerant once established. They're deer-resistant, and they provide exactly what pollinators need: nectar, pollen, and habitat. Plant them once, give them a year to establish, and then enjoy decades of pollinators visiting your garden. This is gardening that works with nature, not against it. If you found this helpful, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to American Healthy Habits for more practical solutions that actually work. Drop a comment and let me know. Which of these 5 plants are you most excited to try? Thanks for watching and happy planting!